another speaker who the main speaker included, Paul Schreiner here, wave Paul. Yeah, Paul's a regular, you know and love him. I said, hey, send me the description for your talk. So he sent it to me. I sent it out as the email through Meetup. And the other speaker, David, found out that he was going to be a part of it that way. So that's fun. No, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. So thanks, David, for showing up today. Where are you? Where are you? I don't even see you anymore. Oh, there you are. Yeah. So anyway, without further ado, Paul Schreiner, he works at Audience Point, and they do stuff with email.
That's good.
They do email stuff.
There you go. All right. Round of applause. Yes, look at that. Let me set this up a little bit. David and I actually found out we were neighbors via Chadev's Slack, of all things. You live on Signal, I live on Signal. You live by Skyline, I live by Skyline. Like, we're like 4 houses away. It's pretty remarkable, and power of community. The intention for this morning, I don't want to say I'm an expert, because I don't think that's fair. I think this is just the shoes I've been walking in for a long time. And I thought this is something that we've kind of connected on and started. And I think, honestly, for many sort of tech folk, this is there, right? Just out of curiosity, we were kind of talking this ahead of time. How many folks here have like an idea for a startup, just for fun? I don't even care that you're thinking, man, I should do it, but like, that passing idea, like, man, that would be a really cool mobile app, right? Or man, I wish I could do this thing. I mean, I think that's where all of this stuff starts from. And so I thought it would. That's funny. I need to switch that, don't I? That's really good at PowerPoint, apparently. Success. Okay. So anyway, that's the idea, and I'd love this to be a little more conversational, maybe than normal. I think that's the thing about startups. I think that's the thing about sort of starting a business is, man, I don't think there's a right way. I think there's just paths we've all been down that maybe suck less than others. So anyway, startup is an organization formed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. And so some of these slides I stole from a friend. Some are my own. If there's kind of ground rules today, if you have a comment, I'd love for you to share. I asked David to join me. I've been at this now, I want to say eight-ish years on the same company. David's a lot newer in the game. And so I thought there'd be an interesting perspective. Both, I've been at it and I hate my life. From I'm super excited about this new thing I'm getting going. And but again, I'd love it if you guys are open to comment as we're going, to ask questions, to even correct. You know what I mean? This is an interesting one. So top 20 reasons a startup fails. It's out of Fortune. No market need, ran out of cash, not the right team, get out-competed, pricing cost issues. You can read it. Anything stand out there to anyone? Yeah, that's those on the bottom don't point to a market need. It's a big part of, like, are we building for customers?
Yeah, that's what I said. There's not a lot of
no.
Not a lot of tech people.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that absolutely leads really perfectly into this. And I'm part of a online group called Only Founders, and so I pinged them and I said, hey, will you guys just provide some insight, some advice for us as we go? And one of the things that they said was sort of drop that tech bias. Successful startups, 1/3 founders, so the right people, right? 1/3 is idea. Do you have a good idea that works? And 1/3 of it's just luck, right? Are you at the right place at the right time? And that third one is such this like right? Because if you have the right idea and the right founders, there's no amount of hustle sometimes. But one of the things that Simon said, and he's out of Australia, of all places, is don't be fascinated by the actual tech or the build you're doing, which is kind of what you were saying, John, which is, right, or your release automation or interval processes. Be 100% about the thing you are solving for your customers first. We had salespeople who actually sold our tech without the customer ever seeing it, right? Which I think kind of leads into where my passion lies. And that's it's all about the story. Does that make sense? This is what I mean. It's like your tech stack. There is a story there. Are you excited about the database you chose? And I realize this contrasts the previous screen, right? But there are reasons you select the technology that you do. That is part of your story, right? For us, I was in Seattle. We selected .NET as an architecture. Why? Because Microsoft is right there. Because there are so many resources in Seattle. That was part of our story, right? So but all of this stuff, here's this clothes one. This is absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's a great part of the story. So we are, email marketing is what we work with, right? So we sell to email marketers. That's who our customer is. Okay, when I started, I didn't know what an email marketer was. I just had this cool idea, right? I had a need, right? So I kind of backed my way into it. Well, one of the things I discovered, so I started going to a couple email marketing conferences, digital marketing. The things I noticed, email marketing dudes, marketing people really care about their shoes, okay? I kid you not. So I'm looking around, and I'm like, everyone here has these like $400 shoes. You know, I'm wearing Toms or whatever they were. I was like, I just don't fit. My story does not fit here. So I hopped on the Tom's website and found a pair of plaid shoes. That sparked so many conversations. That was part of the story. Every single marketer wanted to be unique, individual. Now I was one too, right? But that was part of the story. And so all of these pieces come together as part of what we're building because that story is what we're selling, right? That story is the company at the end of the day. Feel free to interrupt at any point.
Will do.
Okay, good. Okay, so that story. And I think this is important. And again, what do I care about? I love story. Like we stay up at night telling our kids stories. One of the things that got me excited about Audience Point was, again, telling the story of this thing I'm excited about. Does it solve a problem that is real? So my story is this. I was on staff with Young Life. It's a Christian outreach to essentially missionaries to the high school. We were in the least churched county in the United States. We did this on purpose, okay? Because it was part of where we were from. We loved it, right? But it was also low income. It was rural poverty. It was very, very difficult to raise a budget there. So we needed to figure out a way to do that. So we were raising outside of Jefferson County, okay? So phone calls, emails, that was really normal. But one thing was, I was sending out just updates. Hey, here's what's going on with the ministry. I sent one out at 11 o'clock at night, okay? 11 o'clock at night because that's when I got my email done and that's when I clicked send. Do not judge me. I followed up with phone calls the next day because that's the right thing to do. And I talked to my now business partner and I said, hey, will you give money to Young Life? And he's like, sure, whatever. Send me an email. Okay, Andy, I sent you an email. He goes, no, you didn't. Totally did. He says, when did you send it? Last night at 11 o'clock. He goes, I didn't get an email at 11 o'clock. I was up working. He's like, it came in at 2 a.m. Okay, so there's some time zones, right? But he's like, you can't send me an email at 2 a.m. and expect me to open it, expect me to engage with it. He's like, you need to do better. It's like, well, I don't know when you open emails. He's like, I don't know what to tell you, Paul. And so I was like, And it kind of stuck with me. And then it was actually Twitter, Facebook that kind of prompted this, which was like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? If the stream goes past and there's a message in the stream and no one sees it, did it really land? Did you really send that email, right? So how can we figure out when people are engaging with that email? Okay, so there's the problem, right? And so we can embed pixels in emails, and when that pixel loads, we can know that the email was opened. Okay, so that's the problem. So there's a way to solve it, and we can wrap links so we can know when people click on emails. So now we can get a lot of data out of this. And we can figure out when people are engaging with their email. And so that's what we did. And so these are kind of the questions that I asked myself. Does it solve a problem that's real? Absolutely, right? If I need to send emails to people at 2 o'clock in the morning, other people do too, right? Does it solve a problem that I have? Absolutely. Does it solve a problem that other people have? We already talked about that. Would I pay for it? I think I would. And would other people pay for it? These are some of the harder questions, right? Would other people pay for it? Here's another story, and I'm sorry to be the story guy today. I was at my nephew's birthday party, okay? This is right at the beginning. I'm super excited about this thing. Practicing my elevator pitch, right? The thing you can say between floors, right? So I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, hey, what do you do? And I was like, well, Young Life, and I'm also a programmer, and, lots of stuff. And he's like, oh, that's cool. I was like, actually, I'm working on this thing I'm really excited about, right? You tell your story. Really excited about this thing. Figure out when people are online, and we're sending them emails at that point. Really excited. He's like, well, that's really cool. So he hands me a business card. I flip it in my pocket, right? I add him to my email list. I'll say a week and a half later, I get a phone call from him. He says, hey, Paul, this is Tobias. Great, good. He's like, yeah, well, we met at your nephew's birthday party. I was like, sure did, absolutely. He's like, I got an email from you today on the bus on the way home. I was like, okay. He's like, it was at 5 o'clock, 5:30, something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, great. He goes, why did I receive it at 5 o'clock? I said, I don't know. He's like, did you target me? I said, do you open your emails at 5 on the way home every day? And he's like, yes. Okay, yeah, you were targeted. 100%. You got targeted and it worked. He's like, okay, what I didn't tell you at the birthday party is I'm the vice president of IT for Razorfish, which is a big marketing company over in Seattle, 5,000 people. He's like, I need you to come over and share it with my team, right? And so because I told that story, because I got good at that story, telling the story, the pitch, here's what we do, because my enthusiasm and excitement came through, they were excited too. And so what did I walk away with? A check for $5,000 for Young Life. Awesome. Woo woo. But also a pretty fantastic network contact. And the story goes on. We can do that at a different point. So I think this is a fair question to ask too. I was sitting down with James Newkirk. Again, when you're doing this stuff and you're talking to everyone about your idea, everyone gives you advice. You can choose to listen to it. You can choose to not listen to it. James, I listened to, because we were sitting down, and he was like, Paul, you got a lot going on. Lots of kids, Young Life, all this. I know you're excited, but are you all in? Are you willing to give everything up to make this successful, right? And I was like, I don't have to give everything up. I'm good at what I do, right? You gotta have, I guess, maybe a healthy ego too. That probably doesn't hurt. But this idea that this is something I can keep it all. But the thing is, as we've gone down, like I've cashed in all of my retirement. We sold our home in Port Townsend. The one we remodeled, tore down to the studs and brought back. We've taken on debt. We left the ministry we've started. We left our community, our family. We moved to Tennessee, to here, so we could see this be successful. So I guess that's one of those things I want to say is sort of cost of ownership. It's not just easy, but I think it's worth having that conversation. Yeah, you get this now. You know it's coming.
Yeah, and my company is a WordPress as a service, and we manage and update and give clients the power to still manage their site, but without having all the pain points. And we're kind of at this point right now of can I live with it forever, and what are you willing to give up to grow it? So we sat down with the finances and we said 2018 is the point where it needs to grow, it needs to explode. So we're talking right now about hiring someone full-time, bringing them on. We're looking at all this stuff. I've been firing all of my freelance clients that I've had for 5 years that give me a very nice income, and it's kind of frightening when you take that step of, man, I do pretty good, and I get to sit in my underwear all day and do what I want, drink beer at noon, as Paul was saying to me earlier. So we step back and say, is this something I want to do for 10 years? So now it's kind of where I'm starting to relate to, what you're saying. And
So what's that like? Right now, what is that feeling?
last week it was a little scary. This week I'm coming to terms with it.
What does scary look like?
Stressed wife.
Okay, yeah. That's totally real. The conversations I've had with my wife where she sits me down, she's like,
Yeah, so we're going through that right now and kind of, saying, are we all in? What do we need to do to sacrifice to push it to the next level? I've never had an employee. I've never really wanted to take direct clients. I've always been a freelancer for other firms, and we're making, taking the product that has gotten good feedback, is getting some traction, and turning it and going full shift and going to make whatever sacrifices it takes to get to the next level.
Woo. Welcome. The bus is, we'll get to why would you do this in a second. So, but does the idea tell a story, right? Does your idea tell the story? So, and you have to bring the story with you. And Annette, she responded as well. She's like, one of the things that I just love is I want to tell everyone the story. I want to tell them over and over and over again. And part of it is we've taken calls with people just so we can practice our pitch. I know that's a terrible reason to take a phone call, but just to practice our pitch, right? We want to get better at it. Where I started just as a programmer, I had to get better and take on some other roles. So there's no getting around the market and testing. This was her things. She says, really, really, really understand customer need. That was a common theme between everyone I talked to who was sort of founders for a long time. And this was a great cadre of folks. Is really clear message, right? Keep it really simple, succinct, on point. Which is right there, right? Elevator pitch, that 30 seconds between floors. Can you explain to someone what you're doing? Keep it as succinct as possible. Keep it clear. Can you get someone excited on an elevator? That's the question. And you need to tell a good story. And as a founder, your excitement, oh, good, that's not a typo. Excitement, enthusiasm is what sets the tone for your success, right? And so I think that's, as you're talking through, is this something I want to do? Is I want to go bigger or change or whatever? It's that idea of, can my enthusiasm carry it? Because there are days that suck, right? And it is on you to provide the energy for everyone else. And on those days, that's when you have to dig deep. You need a partner. I think this is a real fair question. Some people said yes, some people said no. I think probably. That's as honest as I could be. Partnership is probably one of the most powerful things we've done as a business, and also one of the most frustrating things. Do you guys, what's your structure?
It's just me right now. Okay. I guess that's my structure. It's just me.
Okay.
Doing everything.
Did you think about taking on a partner?
I've thought about it before, but I'm incredibly hard to work with and to work for. So it's never really panned out. And just kind of the speed and the pace I want to go is different than other people I've worked with in the past.
Okay. So, survey. For folks here who've either started a business, that realm, how many of you took on? What was the thinking behind that? Does that mean different than your skill set or the same? Right.
It is frightening.
Right. When the frightening part comes in here, right? How well do you know the person that you're jumping in with? Because you don't know. Now, in my case, I knew Andy well enough to know that there weren't skeletons, but I have heard miserable stories about people who are like, I just didn't know that guy was bad, or that gal was bad. I wish I had known. I wouldn't have even started a business with them. And it is way more painful to unravel that than it is to get the right person in the first place. And so I think a healthy concern, a healthy just caution about who you link horses with is I think is a really good bit of advice. And I see a lot of those that kind of raise their hand are shaking their heads like, yes, if you're going to do a partnership, make sure it's the right one. And again, find one that complements you, right? And I thought, I added this, right, kind of at the last minute, and I thought this was really important, is how do they fight? Because you're going to disagree, right? That's what we do. I'm the smartest person in the room. Therefore, wait, you are too? Okay. This is a problem, right? So how do we fight and how do we resolve those issues? I mean, that's one of those things we learned early on in our company. I don't know that we do it well. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I think that's one of those things where you come back and say, did we do a good job of this? And, and checking in. Oh, dude, you're way off. No, it was you that was way off. I added this. This is just kind of a thought around the whole thing. This came just with meeting with customers. My product is not send time optimization. It is not an email marketing tool. My product is trust. Because when I recognize, if you look at all of the data breaches that have taken place in our world, some of it probably have impacted some of you. I recognize that these junior level email marketers are putting their careers in my hands, in the hands of the people that I work with, right? If that data gets breached, these people lose their jobs. There's no question. So data security. But also, do we deliver on the thing that we said we were going to deliver on? We said you're going to make higher income for you. We're going to make more engagement, higher open rates, higher click-through rates. We promise we can do that. That's what we can say we can do. If we can't, we're not delivering on that trust, right? Can we check their data? This is one that's really important to us. Can you protect their data? We were talking a little bit about sort of part of our story. We went with Rackspace as our hosting provider. Why did we pick Rackspace? Because no one gets in trouble for picking Rackspace, right? Because there's no cloud issue there, right? Is your data at risk if you're on Amazon Web Services or Azure? Of course not, probably not, hopefully not, right? But I mean, could it be? I mean, and that's not a question you, so one of the things, and we'll talk about this in a second, I get to meet with sort of, in the email space, I call them the glitterati, the email glitterati, because there's these big looming careers. They're like, I'm this guy. Good, that's awesome. I'm glad you are. But I get to come in and sit down with them. And large corporations, Target, Sony, Gap, the sort of the security teams for them, I have to convince them that their data is secure. And so to that end, this is a major focus for us, right? That's part of our story is we're going to keep your space secure. But also, are we looking ahead on the customer's behalf? Are we anticipating needs? Are we doing those things? Because that's what a trusted advisor is. And I think I reached a point where I believe that sales transition from sort of, hey, here's your spec, and they'll slide it across the table, to being truly just a trusted advisor, right? And there's two things that come with that, trust and advice, right? And if you don't have trust, you are not a salesperson. You are not, there's no room at the table for you. And I realize, I think maybe that's the thing to say. I know this is Chadev, right? We're developers in our hearts and our minds. But at the same time, when you start a business, you become everything, right? It's no longer just, I'm a programmer, that's what I do. I had to sort of, and there's a slide later that I talk about this, I had to switch, well, I'm maybe not a programmer anymore. Maybe I'm a salesperson. Okay, well, not today. Today I'm a programmer. Oh, maybe I'm not a salesperson today. Maybe I'm QA. There's a humility that comes in where it's like, I really don't care anymore. I just want to make sure that the people around me are successful, right? When do you launch? I thought this was a good question one of my friends brought up. And there's a whole bunch of divergent views on this, right? So you've got this proof of concept. For me, I lock myself in my room for 3 days straight. My wife slides food under the door. Because, I get this idea in my head. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Where you're just I can't drop it. My brain is going all the time. Even when I'm sleeping, I wake up, I'm like, that's it, right? And so I lock myself in a room, and then I walk away with kind of this minimum viable product, proof of concept, demoable, cool thing. Now, one of the things I learned through Audience Point is that is not a product. It's cool. It sells tickets to the show. People get excited about it. But I have not thought through all of the cases, all of the edge cases, the corner cases, the problems. one of the things that I heard consistently from folks was simplify. Simplify your vision, simplify your vision, simplify your vision. There's so much you can do. Keep it simple, right? And this is something you and I have talked about.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, with my product, there's a long list on Trello of stuff I want to add and, things that are in progress. And as I sit back and I get more clients, I look at it and say, man, this is a great idea. No one's using that. Okay, let's take that out for now. Let's stop progress on that. Let's really sit back and think, what is the user actually using in the product versus what I think they're going to use, or how are they using it versus how I built it to be used, and unscaling.
No, that's right.
You unscale your product sometimes because, as developers, we just have these lofty expectations, and everyone should know where all the UI things are all the time because they should. And then, you get in there and people are like, where's the button? I'm like, it's right there in the top right where it's supposed to go. And I run into it a lot with my wife. She's not techie, and, she'll find websites that I'm just like, what time are they open? She's like, it's right there. I'm like, where? Right there. Okay, just tell me. I can't see it, because as developers and UI people, you see things much differently than your client. And, you might think something's ready, and then you've debugged it, and then you get someone there who just does the stupidest thing you've ever heard of, and you're like, well, it's just broken now. All that work is gone.
You have a question? No, Yeah. Cool. So the idea of when do you launch? I thought this was a good question. Alex said launching too early. MVPs are cool, but that was sort of 5 years ago. Does that resonate with other folks? MVP, do you guys know that term? Minimum viable product. Yeah. Is that something you guys would launch with now, or would you wait a little longer? I don't think there's an answer that's correct here, by the way.
I'll launch with an MVP.
You would launch with an MVP? Anyone else? Cool. Who would wait a little longer? Okay.
Oh, no, I would wait.
Oh, you launched with an MVP, now you would wait. Okay, I thought about this a little bit. It's a little bit of how you handle chaos, right? Like, if you launch before you're ready, there is going to be chaos. And there's going to be moments that absolutely suck. But then there's other questions that are begging to be asked too, like, well, how critical is this? What's failure look like? What does success look like? Do I have something that's functional? Do we have something to start with? Is this uncharted territory, or can we pull it off? Because I think there's something really powerful about a paying customer, right? Like, yeah, thank you. It really is. I remember we were doing all of these proof of concept trials. That's another slide here in a second. We were taking all this stuff on, and then we had a customer come in, and it was a big customer, right? There's a big, what do we call it? Gaming console company, international, for Europe, Middle East, and Asia, the EMEA group, right? And I'm like, we went from like an average size list that we're sending to about 10 to 20,000 subscribers. In terms of a data handling perspective, that's we can run that on the laptop, right? I mean, pretty easily. To 11 million subscribers. That's a pretty major magnitude shift, right? So our algorithms had to tighten up. There's a lot of stuff that had to tighten up, but at the same time, we're not going to say no. You know what I mean? We're in. But there was also this sort of saying, hey, we'll get there. There's just going to be some lumps, we're going to take, and there's going to be bumps in the road. And we shared that with the customer. They were comfortable with that. But at the same time, I think this question, some of those questions do need to be asked is, not just are we ready, but what's the need? And if I miss this, what's the loss? But I also live pretty well with chaos. I know you're like, thanks, Paul. You're right. I think this is another good question. This is one of those things that I was asking because my story was I've been building products on the side my whole life. Right? You have this moment, you're like, I know, here it is, dating myself. I had this Trio, right? Which was a knockoff Palm Pilot. I know, Derek's like, I remember those. I had this Trio, and I was like, mobile computing is really cool. So I bought MetroWorks Code Warrior for the Palm, right? And I started rolling some little apps on the Palm Pilot, right? Because I really got it. Okay, so that's cool, but I didn't sell and market it. I was teaching at Bellevue Community College, and I didn't like grading papers, so I wrote a little module that had students grade each other. Cool, right? So that's always been a part of who I am is sort of building stuff. But taking it to that next step, do I take investment on? This is one of those things I had to have my hand held the entire time with Audience Point, because this is brand new ground for me, right? The answer I got consistently was, yes, you should, unless you don't have to, in which case, absolutely do not, right? Take on, there's this balance. You want to say, I don't want to take any more money than I need to, because that's going to dilute the value that I have, but I don't want to run out, because if you run out of money and you still have a good product idea, you didn't ask for enough. And you just failed everyone because you weren't bold enough in your ask. Investors require a good story. We talked about story earlier. This is, and our story's not just for customers. It's not just for our business partners. It's not just for our family. That story that we're building is for everyone. And for investors, they need to believe that story because they are investing in you. They're looking for a good idea, but they're looking for the founders to kind of step up and say, listen, I put it all on the line. I've sold my house. I've sold my car. We've moved to some Tennessee place, Chattanooga. Did I say that right? You know what I mean? Like, I think it took me 6 months for someone to finally say, while I was here, it's actually Chattanooga, not Chattanooga. And I was like, why didn't anybody tell me that? You guys are way too nice. But that idea that, like, they require a good story, and that's part of why we've been building this story the whole time. I thought this was a pretty good litmus test. Do you believe your own story enough to take money from your friends and family? To take money from your mom, from your aunt, from your cousin, from your neighbor, because you have to look them in the eye. You have to tell them, this is going to happen. I believe it. I mean, and at the same time, you have to believe it. And if you can't say yes to that, you shouldn't take the money. I mean, truly. Like, that's why that friends and family round exists. And then you look at, like, Angel or, whatever round you're going through. Have you taken any money on? Is your plan to take money on?
Not at the moment.
Okay, good. We did. We did take money on. That's part of how we've gotten here. So folks in the room who have done it or gone down that path at some level, who took money on? Couple. Who didn't take money on? Who's bootstrapped it? Man, good on you guys. I love 2 hand raises. It's interesting. Again, I think, and this last piece, I was sitting down with a friend of mine out of Boise, the CEO of a company there, and marketing company. We became friends because we're both marketers, my shoes. And he said, place a value on your time. He's like, other people are putting money in, right? And they get 10% or 20% or 50% of the company, whatever that is. How much time is it going to take you, right? So if we talk about 8 years, let's say it's 8 years, doesn't matter, right? What's the equivalent value of my time, right? If I went and got a job at Amazon or Microsoft or somewhere else, how much would they pay me, okay? Say it's $250 a year. Say it's $150 a year. Say it's $75 a year. Doesn't matter. That's the math equation. Let's do an easy one. Say it's $200,000 a year. 8 years times $200,000, I just put $1.6 million in. You put $20,000 in and you got 30% of the company. How much am I worth now? I think one of those really big pitfalls for me as a developer who's not a standard entrepreneur, who does not do this every day, is I devalue my own time. I place less value on my time. I say, I can stay up all night, I can get that working. That may took me 22 hours to get it done, right? And I'll get it done because it's the right thing to do. But I devalue my own time. And so I think when we're talking about sort of this investment piece, and this was, we have one of our advisors, a big startup guy, I mean, kind of in the world, if you will. He's like, Paul, take as much money as you need, and just don't look back. You can always second guess. Did we take enough? Did we take too much? All that. But just motor ahead. There's no undoing that. But at the same time, I think there is also this healthy thing of saying, well, how do I do it? You haven't seen this slide yet. You'll like it. Be patient with failure. We'll start with this part over here. I kid you not. I was building, and there was a list of 50,000 subscribers, and I had a house account for Exact Target. Yeah, thank you for taking a picture of that. House account, right? And there was a live list, which we've instituted processes that will prevent this from ever happening again. However, in this case, I'd sent an email out to 50,000 people that said, your feelings are stupid and wrong. Yeah. Not the best moment. Jason ended up laughing at me. Like, that was the thing. He's like, this, honestly, this is exact target. Now, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, we send so many emails. No one's going to notice 50,000. I said, okay, good. But this idea of failure happens, this kind of stuff. And I'm like, when I was putting this together, I was like, do I really want to share that? Because it is funny, but also this is part of it, right? Thank you for, he's like, yeah, with you. But this is part of what we do, right? There are moments where we break stuff, we do stuff wrong, where we send emails out to people we don't know who triggered them. Yeah, I triggered people. Awesome. And so it's like, I think the first thing that I learned is there's a humility about a startup where you own the stuff that you've done wrong. That's powerful. It's really powerful to say, you know what, that's my bad. I did this. This is my fault. I'm sorry. I was testing our sending engine. I spammed 50,000 people. I'm sorry, right? I owned it. But also at the same time recognizing this is a really good thing. We will never do this again. This is never going to happen. Couple things we did. We got rid of that image. We replaced it, I think, with Yoda or something that's a lot more benign, right? As a developer, this is funner to work with, right? Because every time you get that email, you're like, hey, it came through, that's good. My feelings are stupid and wrong. But at the same time, if that gets past the goalkeeper, as it did for me, that's a big deal, right? And so changing content on emails that would be deployed, it's a lot more neutral now. If something were ever to get through, it would just be like, I didn't sign up for this, right? I'm not personally offending anyone. But then also, we put processes in place that says we don't use live email addresses. That's just that's never a thing we do anymore. There's this blackhole.io. You can just send as million emails to them as you want. They just disappear. Those are the emails we use. And I think incremental improvement is key. Like, are we better than we were the last time? Did we do better? Do you have a thought on incremental improvement?
Well, a little bit back to owning it. Back with owning it, I think, especially when you're starting out, I don't have 50,000 people's emails, but, I think the faster you own it with your client, I think the more respect you'll get, at least in my experience. Earlier this week I had a bug, and then I was told about it, and I was like, okay, I'll push it fix real quick. And when I pushed it, I fixed it, but I pushed 2 other bugs. It was very clear about it. It said, hey, give me 30 minutes. We're going to get this bug resolved. And, the client was very understanding. And I think it's a big deal is to own it as a business owner.
Yeah. Right. Right. I love this. So just to recap a little bit, Yahoo, Uber, what's the financial company that just, Equifax. Equifax, the deal is they found that and they hid it for 10 months. Yahoo, they had exposed that, hey, we had a small data breach. Well, no, that was a huge data breach, but they just didn't, yeah. Versus LastPass, which discovered it and fixed it within 24 hours, sort of acknowledging and saying, it's our bad. There's a word I use I'm not going to share on a microphone. We screwed up. Our bad, right? So anyway, I think that's a great analogy. Absolutely. Any other thoughts on that? Owning it? Okay. This one, and we came up earlier, so we won't take too much time on this. Take real money as soon as you can. It changes it. When you're doing it for free, it's really easy to be like, you know what? You're getting a free product, and it's part of development. It just doesn't matter. But when you have real money on the line, even if it's $100, I know it sounds silly, but that matters. It changes the equation, and you become better. The people around you become better. And it sets a tone for your business that says our product is valuable, and we are valuable people, and what we do provides value to people. Therefore, we're going to charge. People are always going to ask for free trials and proofs of concept, pilots. There's lots of different words for them. I would encourage you all to say no. No. There's value to what we're bringing. I think there are ways that you can change the scope of the agreement where you'd say, listen, instead of maybe all of this, we're not going to give it to you for free, but maybe we could reduce the scope, right? So instead of all of this, you just get this, right? But again, I think these are good sort of marketing, sales, and marketing tools. Hey, you got a 14-day free trial. But as a business owner, when you give your product away for free, you're devaluing it, and you're devaluing the work of the people that put their time in. Because ideally, you grow from being just David to David plus team, to David plus team plus office, to David plus team plus office plus everyone. And when David decides, we're just going to give that away, he's saying to the people around him, I don't value what you do. Now, there's times when you would. There's nonprofits, NGOs. Man, we always try and do whatever we can do to make it better for them because we want to help people who help others. It's part of our ethos, right? But we try not to do free trials ever. We want some skin in the game. I thought this was really important. You deserve a spot at the table. Take it, right? And this is, again, giving you the pass to say you are worth your salt, right? You have to have a bit of an ego, but at the same time, you have been invited to the table, right? We got a phone call from this gaming console company headquartered out of London. Said, we're interested in this send time optimization thing, right? We went from 15,000 subscribers to, we knew they had 11 million. So we bought suits, flew to London, and sold the deal. That's what it did, right? We sat at the table, toe-to-toe with them, and we said, we can absolutely deliver on that. This is new. We're gonna increase magnitude and scale, but we're committed to seeing this through for you. Because this was so new to them, they were like, all right, we're in, and they appreciated our honesty. And, did you not? I said, is there anything I can bring from the United States for you? He goes, you're going to laugh at me. I said, okay. He's like, Lucky Charms. We cannot get Lucky Charms in London. I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, no. Well, I guess there's some import-export issues about food, stuff like that. So I broke the law. I did. My carry-on, I think I had like 6 boxes of Lucky Charms in my backpack. And so like we're in the conference room and it's like, he walks in, he's like, wow. There you go. But you deserve a spot at the table is the point. You have earned it by doing what you've done, by getting to this point. It is okay for you to say, I belong here. And I think, at least for me, coming in again as a developer, not necessarily as an entrepreneur, not out of business school, not with this pedigree for the game, I needed somebody to tell me you have a spot at the table. And so now I'm telling you, you have a spot at the table. Yeah, you do too. Last couple things. Always be thinking about scale. I wouldn't say make it your driving factor, especially as you start, but have it in the back of your mind. Say no to things instead of take on scale that you can't handle. This is, I think, an important piece. Let your story evolve. What you started with is not always what you should finish with. It should evolve. Let it pivot. Listen to customer feedback. Always be listening. Interview customers. Find out what they want. Are you delivering the thing that they want, or do you need to change? Grow. That means you, too. Shrink and focus your story. So like we were talking about keeping it simple, sometimes you need to add complexity, need to add features, because if you don't, you'll lose customers. This one is important too. Let you evolve in your own story, right? Because just as much as your company is a story, so is your life, right? And so there's that humility that you have to bring to the table that says, I will be who I'm going to be today, right? I mean, I know we've had that conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Starting your own business is, all those things that are listed there and more. And, it comes down to, you might get tasks that you feel are menial or below what you need to do, but, in order to get the next client, to get the next sale, you get your fancy shoes or you, get your suit. I don't know if I'll get a suit, but you know, you got to constantly evolving. And you know, where I was at 6 years ago when I started my business and where I'm at now is completely different. Now, you know, I'm an accountant and I'm looking at expenses and running reports. And you know, 6 years ago I'd be like, well, I don't need any of that. I'm a coder. So learning all those business skills as you build and grow is crucial to, I think, success. If you just want to stay a coder, then go back to the second slide and get a partner immediately.
And that's a good idea too, right? Like knowing what you want to be and do is a fantastic thing, right? I want to be just a programmer. Cool. Be really good at that and augment your weaknesses with other people's strengths. I have a couple more slides. I'm going to rush through them because I know I do want to sort of honor everyone's time. This is a friend of mine's slide. He's out of Nashville. He was talking about sort of just when to pivot. And he's like, you know, there's this customer discovery solution where, you know, problem solution fit, we talked about that. MVP, proposed funnel. So like, how do we sell? How do we make this thing work? And then validate it with customers. And as you get that validation, pivot quickly. Lean startups isn't about being cheap. It's about being less wasteful and doing things that are big, right? Big dreams, big goals. So then, if our thing is not about necessarily being cheap and sort of avoiding waste, how do we avoid that waste? Keep it simple. Don't boil the ocean. It's not going to help you. Requiring unrealistic changes in user behavior. I need my users to do this, and this. No. One of our core values as a company is simplicity. If it is not simplicity, it doesn't go out the door. Requiring unrealistic changes in the rights holders' behavior. Do we expect our customers to do things that they wouldn't normally do? Of course not. If that were the case, we're going to lose those customers. And then the last thing here is letting one big customer drive the project, the partner, because that's going to destroy sort of everything. Or can, right? Because you have way too much riding on one person. I have one, this I don't know a lot about, and I was hoping you could fill it in, because I know you did a incubator boot camp thing. Co-starters. I didn't. You know, I didn't. I came in as a programmer. I came in and I found mentors, people who would talk to me and tell me, Paul, you're being stupid, right? But I'm curious, tell me about co-starters. Did I say that right?
Co-starters. Okay. Yeah, it's from the co-lab here downstairs on the first floor, and it kind of just takes you through, you know, idea and, you know, through all different steps of what it's going to take to grow a business. You know, by the end of the 9 weeks, you obviously don't have a business, but you have kind of the stepping stones to, you know, basically a lot of stuff from the slides, like, do you need a partner? What are your leadership skills? You know, what's your marketing plan going to be? What's your story? It really takes people who've never built a business through, you know, ground zero, day one, like, I have this idea, and then you get to talk with other people in the class and kind of challenge each other's idea and refine each other's idea, because, you know, Paul will come at it and say, I need to do this, and I'll say, well, that's cool, but what about if it did this? And everyone else like, yeah, that's how I would use it. And, you know, it starts refining, you know, what you're going to do. It's free customer feedback before you have customers. So,
and this is, I think, maybe recommend to people or a hackathon, an incubator. I mean, is that something you would encourage people to do?
I would definitely encourage, I mean, I did the co-stars, I haven't done the other stuff, but I would encourage it. You know, I had already had running a business for a while, so I mean, I knew some of the, you know, the accounting stuff, they go through all of that, but I could definitely see the progression in other people taking the course of, they've never had to think about accounting or marketing or any of those things or have any idea about a lot of that, and you see at the end, they say, okay, this is feasible, I'm gonna move forward, or maybe I'm gonna go back to the drawing board. I think it's a really good program.
Okay, and then who here is, and would you say yes, you like that, you encourage other people? Well, last slide is just contact info. Start businesses.